She locked me out in front of everyone. Thursday morning, 9:47 a.m., our conference room filled with staff holding coffee cups and confused faces. My wife Alina stood at the head of the table, laptop open, wearing that cold smile I'd learned to fear. "Adrian no longer has financial access," she announced. Her finger clicked the mouse. My admin privileges vanished. 13 people watched me get erased from the company I built. Nobody spoke. The projector showed our bank dashboard, my name grayed out, already archived. She slid a printed document across the polished wood. Her signature gleamed at the bottom, dated 2 days earlier. "It's already done," she said quietly. My stomach dropped like I'd been shoved off a cliff. 10 years of late nights, sacrificed weekends, second mortgages, all for Linea Studio. Our interior design firm. Our dream. Except somewhere along the way, our became hers, in her mind, and I'd been too blind to notice. The room felt airless. Someone coughed. Alina closed her laptop with a soft click and walked out, heels sharp against hardwood. I sat frozen, staring at that document, trying to understand how your partner becomes your enemy overnight. My name is Adrian Voss. I am 41 years old. Co-founder of Linea Studio, though apparently that title meant nothing anymore. 10 years ago, Alina and I started this company in my garage with borrowed equipment and desperate hope. She handled the creative side, sketches and client meetings, while I managed everything else, contracts, suppliers, payroll, the boring backbone that kept dreams upright. We were good together back then. She'd design something impossible and I'd figure out how to build it. Late nights turned into early mornings. We'd celebrate small wins with cheap wine and takeout. I took out a second mortgage when the bank rejected our loan application. Skipped my brother's wedding to finish the Riverside Plaza project. Missed my father's 70th birthday because suppliers needed signatures. I thought we were building something permanent, something that justified the sacrifice. Alina used to say I was her rock, the steady hand behind her vision. But memories lie sometimes, don't they? Looking back now, I see how language shifted. Our company became my studio in her conversations. We decided, turned into, I'm planning. Small changes I ignored because love makes you stupid that way. The early years felt magical. Our first major client was a downtown hotel renovation. Alina's designs made architectural magazines. Photographers loved her work. I handled 16-hour days coordinating contractors, negotiating prices, making sure her vision didn't bankrupt us. We worked well as opposites, yin and yang, all those partnership clichés that feel true until they're not. I remember finding her asleep at her drafting table one morning, pencil still in hand, design half finished. I covered her with my jacket and finished the budget spreadsheets in silence. Those moments felt sacred. Around year 7, something changed. She started attending design conferences alone. Networking is better solo, she explained. Private phone calls in the parking lot. Password changes for security reasons. When I asked about new clients, she'd say, "You wouldn't understand the creative process." Maybe I wouldn't. But I understood numbers, and our accounts showed expenses I couldn't trace. I told myself not to be paranoid. Trust is supposed to be foundational in marriage, right? Except foundations crack when you ignore the warning signs, and I'd been ignoring them for years. The tension built like pressure behind a dam. Small things that felt wrong but weren't quite disasters. Alina hired her brother Damien last spring as project coordinator. I'd met him twice, both times unimpressed. He had smooth words and no experience, the kind of person who calls themselves an entrepreneur while living off family money. "We need fresh perspective," Alina insisted when I questioned the hire. Damien started showing up to client meetings I wasn't invited to. Documents appeared on our server I hadn't approved. Vendor relationships I'd built over years suddenly went through him instead of me. Staff started asking Damien for approvals on things I used to handle. I tried talking to Alina about it. She'd smile that new smile, the one that didn't reach her eyes, and say, "You're too controlling. Learn to delegate." But delegation implies trust, and I didn't trust Damien. Something about his smirk when he looked at our financial reports. The way he and Alina would stop talking when I entered rooms. Maybe I was paranoid. Or maybe paranoia is just pattern recognition for threats you haven't fully processed yet. Then came the meeting that shattered everything. Monday morning, Alina sent a company-wide email, strategic alignment session, 9 a.m. Thursday, attendance mandatory. I assumed she'd landed another big client. Maybe we'd finally discuss the Kensington estate project, our biggest contract yet, set to close in days. I walked into that conference room expecting celebration. Instead, she stood behind the presentation screen wearing her power suit, the navy one she saved for important occasions. "We're restructuring," she began, voice steady as a surgeon making incisions. Words appeared on screen: creative director and managing partner, Alina Voss. Consultant role, Adrian Voss. Consultant. The word hit me like a fist. Around the table, faces turned away. Nobody met my eyes. "This isn't personal," she continued, which is what people say when it's absolutely personal. "It's about efficiency and vision alignment." She'd rehearsed this speech. Practiced in mirrors, probably. Timed the pauses. She was erasing me in real time, rewriting our history with corporate language and cold efficiency. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Just sat there while she explained how I'd transition into a reduced role. The betrayal wasn't loud or dramatic. It was surgical, precise, and absolutely devastating. I left early that day, numb. Drove home on autopilot, barely remembering the route. Our shared home office felt foreign. My desk was cleared, personal items boxed neatly in the corner. Even my access card didn't work when I tried the office door later. She'd planned this carefully, executed it perfectly. That night at dinner, I finally asked why. We sat across from each other at the table we'd picked out together 5 years ago, eating pasta neither of us tasted. "Why did you do it?" I kept my voice steady. She set down her fork with deliberate calm. "You wouldn't let me grow, Adrian. Everything had to go through you. Every decision needed your approval." I felt suffocated. The words felt rehearsed, like she'd practiced this conversation too. "We built this together," I said. "No." Her eyes were cold. "I built this. You managed it. There's a difference." She stood, taking her plate to the sink. "You'll understand eventually. This is better for everyone." But better for whom? Not the staff watching their co-founder get erased. Not the clients who trusted our partnership. Her, maybe. Whatever she was planning, whatever game she was playing, she needed me gone to finish it. Despite being phased out, weird things kept happening. Invoices still arrived under my name. Supplier contracts listed me as primary contact. And the big one, Kensington Estates, a multi-million-dollar residential development, was scheduled to close in 3 days. I was the listed negotiator and sole authorized signatory on that contract. I'd spent 8 months building that relationship, understanding their needs, crafting proposals. Removing me right before signing made no sense strategically. Unless she didn't know. Unless in her rush to take control, she'd missed critical details. I pulled the contract that night from my personal backup files. There it was, Clause 7, Section 3, all negotiations and final agreements require the signature of Adrian Voss as authorized representative of Linea Studio. It was standard legal protection I'd built into major contracts years ago, back when the company was just us and everything felt more vulnerable. She couldn't close Kensington without me. The realization hit slowly, like dawn breaking. She'd made a mistake. A big one. The question hammered in my head, why now? Why move against me right before our biggest deal? What was she hiding that was worth this risk? The answer came through a phone call I wasn't expecting. That evening, my cell rang with a number I recognized, Gerard Lucent, CFO of Kensington Estates. Professional, polite, and confused. Adrian, we received a message from your wife saying you're no longer with Linea Studio. But our contract lists you as the sole signatory. Are you leaving the firm? His voice carried genuine concern. We'd built a good relationship over months of planning. I chose my words carefully. No, Gerard. There's been an internal reorganization, but I'm still very much involved, especially with your project. Silence on his end, processing. That's odd. She seemed quite clear you were out. Should we be concerned about the contract's validity? Something shifted in that moment. A door opening I hadn't seen before. Not at all, I said smoothly. I'll be at the signing Thursday as planned. Perhaps just a communication mix-up. After we hung up, I sat in my home office, pieces clicking together. Alina had moved impulsively, driven by something urgent enough to override caution. She tried to erase me without checking the legal framework. That wasn't confidence. That was panic disguised as control. Whatever she was hiding, it was big enough to make her reckless. And recklessness creates opportunities. I didn't confront her. Instead, I went digging. Late nights while she slept, I accessed old backup drives, retrieved archived emails, checked shared cloud folders she'd forgotten I could still reach. Years of financial records, vendor payments, project expenses. I started noticing patterns. Small transfers, irregular but consistent, always marked as project consulting fees. They went to a company I'd never heard of, DNL Interiors Limited. I ran the business registration. Listed owner, Damien Voss. Her brother. Established 2 years ago. My hands went cold. I cross-referenced invoices. Multiple vendor payments supposedly went to outside contractors for specialty work, but our internal staff had done that work. I remembered those projects. I'd supervised them. The money had been siphoned elsewhere, funneled through Damien's shell company, then, where? I pulled 2 years of statements. The amounts weren't huge individually, carefully sized to avoid triggering audit flags. 5,000 here, 8,000 there. Together they totaled over $200,000. Money stolen quietly, methodically, from the company we'd built. From clients who trusted us. From staff whose salaries those funds should have supported. The betrayal grew colder with each file I opened. But I didn't explode or rage or confront. I printed everything. Created encrypted backups. Built a folder of evidence. And said nothing. Silence, I was learning, could be the sharpest weapon. The hidden accounts went deeper than I'd imagined. Following the trail from DNL Interiors, I found secondary transfers to a personal account under Alina's maiden name, Alina Thorne. Money flowing from our business, through her brother's company, into her private stash. She'd been planning this for years, building an escape fund while I worked late nights to keep us afloat. How many times had I skipped family events while she was stealing from us? How many sacrifices had I made while she plotted my removal? The dates told their own story. The transfers started 26 months ago, right after we landed the Riverside District contract, our first major success. That's when we'd gone from surviving to thriving, when the money got real. That's when she decided I was expendable. I traced every dollar, built spreadsheets, matched dates to project completions. The documentation was damning. Any forensic accountant would see the fraud immediately. But I didn't go to lawyers or police. Not yet. Because Alina didn't know I knew. That ignorance was leverage, and I was learning to be patient. Chess players don't flip the board in rage. They plan moves ahead, let their opponent walk into traps. I printed everything, stored copies in 3 locations, and waited. Justice, I realized, works best when it's precise. Then things started breaking. My phone began ringing constantly. Suppliers calling confused. We need Adrian's sign-off on the Maple Street materials. The vendor portal won't process without your authorization. Where should we send the revised contract? Alina had locked me out administratively, but the operational reality hadn't caught up. Years of relationships, established protocols, vendor accounts all pointing to me. She was discovering that erasing someone on paper doesn't erase them from institutional memory. I watched from a distance as she struggled. Meetings ran long. Staff looked confused. The Kensington team sent 3 emails asking for clarification on terms only I understood. Her carefully planned takeover was collapsing under its own weight. I didn't intervene. Didn't offer help or guidance. Just let the pressure build, watching the structure crack. She tried to remove the foundation while the building was still standing. Now she was learning about gravity. My phone buzzed with texts from staff asking questions only I could answer. I responded to none of them. The silence from me became its own force, a void where my competence used to be. And slowly, people started noticing what happened when I wasn't there to hold things together. The revenge wasn't loud. It was watching her drown in problems only I knew how to solve. Then came the call I didn't expect. Friday afternoon, a number I hadn't seen in years, Evelyn Hart. The firm's original founder and silent investor. She'd retired 5 years ago, stepping back to let Alina and me run things. Elegant, sharp, with zero tolerance for nonsense. Her voice carried steel underneath the politeness. Adrian. Why did you quit right before the Kensington deal? I sat up straight. I didn't quit, Evelyn. Silence stretched. That's not what Alina told me. She said you'd decided to pursue other opportunities, that you'd become unreliable. Lies stacked on lies. None of that is true. I was removed from financial access against my will. In front of the entire staff. I heard her exhale slowly. I see. We need to meet. Not at the office. Can you come to my house tomorrow morning? The power dynamic was shifting. Evelyn wasn't just an investor. She owned 40% of the company through her retirement arrangement, with specific contract clauses about major changes requiring her approval. Alina had assumed Evelyn wouldn't interfere, wouldn't question her version of events. Bad assumption. Evelyn built her fortune by noticing details others missed. And she just noticed something was very wrong. I'll be there, I said. 10 o'clock. Bring documentation, she replied. Everything you have. The phone clicked. I looked at my folders of evidence, months of proof sitting in encrypted files. The storm was coming. Alina just didn't know it yet. Evelyn's estate sat outside the city, a converted farmhouse surrounded by gardens she maintained herself. Old money with old values, integrity, documentation, consequences. She met me at the door wearing gardening gloves, pulled them off to shake my hand. Come in. Coffee's ready. We sat in her study, sunlight filtering through tall windows. I laid out the contracts, transfer records, the clause proving I remained the Kensington negotiator. She read everything in silence, reading glasses perched on her nose. When she found the DNL Interiors payments, her jaw tightened. How long has this been happening? 26 months that I can prove. Possibly longer. She set down the papers carefully, like handling something contaminated. She tried to outmaneuver you without reading the fine print. That's not just dishonest. It's incompetent. I stayed quiet, let the documentation speak. Evelyn stood, paced to the window. You understand I built that firm from nothing. 30 years of my life. I handed it to you too because I believed in partnership. Family. Trust. Her voice hardened. She's destroying that. What do you want to do? I asked. She turned, eyes cold with decision. I'm calling an emergency meeting. Full senior staff. Monday morning. And Alina better have good explanations for these transfers. She tapped the folder. You'll be there as full partner, regardless of whatever administrative game she's played. I didn't smile or celebrate. Just nodded once. Thank you. Justice was beginning. Quiet, methodical, inevitable. Monday morning hit like a hurricane. I arrived at the office early, before anyone else. Sat in my old parking spot, watched staff trickle in, saw Alina's car pull up at 8:40. She looked tired. Good. At 9 o'clock sharp, Evelyn walked through the front doors unannounced. Staff froze. She rarely visited anymore. Her presence meant something serious. Conference room. Senior staff only. Now. Her voice carried no warmth. People scrambled. I followed at the back, avoiding eye contact. We filed in, 13 of us around that same table where I'd been erased days earlier. Alina sat at the head, trying to look in control. Evelyn stood at the opposite end, laptop open. Did you even read the Kensington contract before removing Adrian from financial access? She asked flatly. No greeting, no small talk. Alina's face went pale. We restructured for efficiency. Answer the question. Silence. Around the table, people stared at their hands. Evelyn clicked her laptop. The contract appeared on the projector, Clause 7 highlighted. Sole authorized signatory, Adrian Voss. That contract closes in 48 hours. Did you check this? Alina's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. I thought. Damien said. Damien? Evelyn's voice could cut glass. Your brother who registered a shell company receiving payments from our vendors. That Damien? The room went absolutely silent. You could hear breathing. Effective immediately, Evelyn continued, Alina Voss is suspended pending full financial review. Adrian, you're reinstated with full authority. She looked around the table. Anyone unclear? Nobody spoke. Alina stood slowly, face white, and walked out. The glass door clicked shut behind her. That evening, my phone rang. Alina's number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. We need to talk. Her voice was forced calm, like someone holding on to composure by their fingernails. Now you want to talk. This is a misunderstanding. Evelyn's overreacting. We can fix this. I stayed quiet, let her fill the silence. The company needs both of us. Think about the staff, the clients. We can work this out like adults. Like adults. The phrase almost made me laugh. What do you want, Alina? Come back. Tomorrow. We'll draft a new partnership agreement, full transparency, equal authority. I made mistakes. I'm admitting that. The lies came so easily to her. Even now, she was playing angles, trying to manipulate terms. Only on my conditions, I said finally. What conditions? Private meeting. Just us and Evelyn. New contract with full financial disclosure requirements. Complete audit of all accounts. And Damien resigns immediately. She hesitated. I could hear her breathing. Done. 10 o'clock tomorrow. I'll be there. I hung up, staring at my phone. She was scrambling, trying to limit damage. But it was too late for damage control. The audit would uncover everything. She was buying time, hoping to hide evidence or spin the narrative. She didn't realize I'd already won. The game was over. She just didn't know she was already defeated. Tuesday morning, I walked through Linea Studios' doors and everything felt different. Staff whispered as I passed, watching. Some smiled slightly. Others looked away. Nobody knew quite what to say to someone who'd been erased and resurrected. Evelyn stood in the lobby waiting. "Welcome back, Adrian." She handed me a formal letter, full reinstatement, all authority restored, new transparency protocols attached. I took it without ceremony. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. You earned this by building something real." She almost destroyed it through greed. We walked toward the conference room. Alina sat inside already, Damien beside her. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Evelyn laid out terms, complete financial review by external auditors, all accounts open for inspection, both partners required to sign off on expenses above $5,000. Alina agreed to everything, voice hollow. When Evelyn mentioned Damien's resignation, Alina started to protest, then stopped. He stood quietly and left without a word. I watched him go, thinking about the shell company, the stolen funds. That was for lawyers now. The meeting lasted 90 minutes. Details, protocols, rebuilding trust that was probably gone forever. When we finished, Alina tried to approach me. "Adrian, don't." I cut her off. "We're business partners now. Nothing else. That's all we'll ever be." Her eyes filled with something that might have been regret. I turned away before I could care. The Kensington signing was Thursday, 48 hours later. I spent 2 days reviewing every detail, ensuring perfection. This contract would define our firm's future, prove we were still viable despite the chaos. The clients arrived at 10. Gerard Lucent led their team, 4 people in expensive suits carrying briefcases full of documents. Alina sat in the corner, silent and pale. I led the presentation, walking through designs, timelines, budget breakdowns. Every question they asked, I answered. 8 months of relationship building, understanding their vision, anticipating concerns. The meeting flowed like water. At 11:30, Gerard leaned back. "We're impressed. Your professionalism during this transition period shows real character." He didn't specify what transition he meant. Didn't need to. By noon, signatures were complete. $4 million in contracted work. The biggest deal in our company's history. When they left, Evelyn stood. "You saved the firm, Adrian." I just nodded. Alina still sat in the corner, staring at nothing. I wondered what she was thinking. Regret? Anger? Or was she already planning the next move? With her, I'd learned you could never quite tell. Trust once broken stays broken, even when you're sitting in the same room pretending everything's professional. I gathered my materials and left. Let her sit with what she'd almost destroyed. Weeks passed. Surface calm, like ice over deep water. I rebuilt systems, restructured vendor relationships, reassured clients. Staff slowly relaxed, though the office atmosphere never quite recovered its old warmth. People chose sides without saying so. Some avoided Alina. Others seemed uncertain who to trust. The company functioned, but the family feeling we'd once had was gone, replaced by cautious professionalism. Then small things started going wrong. Emails I'd sent weren't in my sent folder. Invoice attachments appeared corrupted. A client complained about a conversation I supposedly had that I didn't remember. Documents I'd saved showed unauthorized edits. Nothing catastrophic, but unsettling. Someone was tampering, making me look disorganized or unreliable. I started logging everything. Screenshots, timestamps, backup saves. If someone was playing games, I wanted proof. Our IT director, Felix, noticed too. "Your account's showing weird access patterns," he mentioned casually Friday afternoon. "Want me to dig deeper?" "Please." Monday morning, he knocked on my door looking grim. "We need to talk privately." We went to his basement server room where nobody could overhear. He pulled up login records. Someone's been accessing your files from Alina's computer. Late nights, weekends. Changing documents, deleting emails. They're not even trying to hide it well. The betrayal wasn't surprising anymore. Just disappointing. How long? 3 weeks. Right after she came back from suspension. She was sabotaging me from within. If she couldn't remove me legally, she'd destroy my reputation piece by piece. Make me look incompetent until Evelyn or clients lost faith. I felt no rage. Just cold, clear resolve. Keep logging everything. Don't tell anyone. Already done. Felix handed me a USB drive. Complete activity records. Timestamps, file changes, everything. Paper trails don't lie. The sabotage escalated. Rumors started spreading through the office that I was under pressure, that maybe the stress was affecting my judgment. I heard whispers near the break room about succession planning, about whether Evelyn should consider other management options. Classic manipulation: plant doubt, let it grow, then harvest the chaos. Staff members who'd supported me started acting uncertain. The narrative was shifting. Alina was working quietly, having conversations I wasn't part of, spinning her version of reality. Making herself look stable and me look unstable. If I confronted her directly, it would seem paranoid. If I stayed silent, the damage would compound. I documented everything Felix found, added my own observations, built a timeline of sabotage attempts. Then I did what she wouldn't expect, I went straight to Evelyn. Met her at her house again, laid out the IT logs, showed her the pattern. She read in silence, face hardening. This is deliberate. Yes. And you're certain it's her? The logs don't lie. Her computer, her login credentials, times when only she was in the office. Evelyn set down the papers carefully. We need a full internal review. Formal. With board oversight. I was hoping you'd say that. She looked at me directly. You've been remarkably patient through this. Most people would have exploded by now. I shrugged. Exploding doesn't fix problems. Documentation does. She almost smiled. Your father would be proud. He always said measure twice, cut once. He did. We scheduled the review for the following week. Everything official, properly documented, no shortcuts. If Alina wanted war, we'd fight it in boardrooms and audit reports, not parking lot confrontations. The internal review board convened the following Tuesday. Evelyn, 2 external board members, our attorney, and an independent forensic auditor named Kathleen Pierce. Cold-eyed professional who made her living uncovering corporate fraud. We gathered in the main conference room, windows showing the city skyline. Alina arrived dressed formally, projecting confidence she probably didn't feel. I sat across from her, expression neutral. Kathleen presented first: 3 weeks of investigation, digital forensics, financial analysis. The screen lit up with findings. Unauthorized access logs from Alina's credentials. Altered documents with tracked changes revealing tampering. Deleted emails recovered from server backups. And then the big discovery: DNL Interiors Limited wasn't just Damien's company. Alina was the silent partner, listed on business registration documents filed 18 months ago. Every fraudulent payment had funneled through their joint operation. $237,000 diverted from Linea Studio into their private accounts. Kathleen showed bank statements, transfer dates, matching invoices. The evidence covered the entire conference table. Around the room, faces went stone cold. Our attorney took notes silently. Alina tried to speak. This is taken out of context. Those were legitimate consulting fees. Consulting for what? Kathleen's voice cut like a scalpel. Your internal staff completed every project these invoices reference. We interviewed them. Silence. Alina's composure cracked. Her hands shook slightly. The lies were over. The proof was absolute. She looked at me across the table. I kept my face blank, showing nothing. This wasn't personal anymore. This was accounting. Evelyn spoke next, voice harder than I'd ever heard. We established this company on trust. Family values. Integrity. You've violated all of that. I can explain. Alina started. No. Evelyn cut her off. Explanations would have mattered weeks ago. Before the tampering. Before the document destruction. Before you tried to sabotage your own partner. She gestured at the evidence spread before us. This isn't a mistake. This is systematic fraud. Our attorney, Vincent Torres, slid a document across the table. Immediate suspension pending criminal investigation. All access revoked. You'll surrender company keys, passwords, and electronic devices before leaving today. Security will escort you out. The formality was crushing. No yelling, no drama. Just cold legal consequences. Alina looked around the table, searching for allies. Found none. Even people who'd supported her before couldn't defend this. The numbers were too clear, the evidence too complete. What about my stake in the company? She asked quietly. Your partnership agreement includes a morality clause, Vincent replied. Fraud constitutes breach. The board will vote on forced buyout terms next week. Meaning she'd get pennies on the dollar for her share. Years of work, erased by her own greed. She stood slowly, unsteady. Looked at me one last time. I met her eyes but said nothing. There were no words left between us. Security appeared at the door. She walked out escorted, past staff who'd gathered in the hallway, watching in silence. The glass doors closed behind her. She didn't look back. That evening, Damien resigned through an emailed letter. No fight, no defense. He knew what was coming. The evidence against him was just as solid. Our attorney filed complaints with law enforcement, initiated civil recovery proceedings. The money they'd stolen would haunt them for years. Within days, the atmosphere changed. Staff who'd been walking on eggshells relaxed. Conversations grew normal again. The company felt lighter somehow, like poison draining from a wound. Evelyn called a company-wide meeting Friday afternoon. Everyone gathered in the main workspace. She stood on a chair so everyone could see her. You all deserve to know what happened. Alina Voss and her brother diverted over $200,000 from this company through fraudulent invoicing. Adrian discovered it, documented it, and brought it to my attention. The evidence was reviewed by independent auditors and legal counsel. She's been removed permanently. Silence. People processing. This company was built on trust. When that trust is broken, there are consequences. But we're still here. Still strong. And we're going forward with new leadership focused on transparency and integrity. She looked at me. Adrian's accepted full managing partnership. I'm confident in his leadership. Scattered applause started, growing louder. People actually clapped. I felt something unexpected, relief. Not triumph or satisfaction. Just relief that the truth was finally public. That night I drove home exhausted. The fight was over. I'd won. So why didn't it feel like victory? Days blurred together. I restructured financial protocols, implemented new transparency requirements. Every expense over $1,000 now required dual approval. Monthly financial reviews open to all senior staff. External audits twice yearly. Changes designed to prevent what Alina had done from ever happening again. Staff adapted quickly. The new systems actually improved efficiency. People appreciated knowing where money went, understanding company health. Trust grows when you remove secrets. 2 weeks later, Evelyn offered me full managing control and majority partnership. She wanted to retire completely, finally step back. "I trust you," she said simply. "You've earned it." I accepted, but with conditions. New protections for everyone. Clear reporting structures. Anonymous feedback systems. This company should never have one person with unchecked power again. She nodded approval. "Your father taught you well." "He did." We restructured the partnership agreement. Evelyn retained minority stake with board oversight rights. I became majority owner and CEO. The paperwork was signed Thursday morning. That afternoon, I called a staff meeting. Announced the changes, explained new protocols. "This isn't about me replacing Alina," I told them. "This is about building something stronger. A company where everyone knows their value and their voice matters." People seemed genuinely pleased. The culture shifted overnight. Accountability replaced fear. Questions replaced whispers. For the first time in years, work felt purposeful again. Not perfect. The damage Alina caused would take time to heal completely. But forward was forward. Some nights I thought about her, wondered where she was, what she was thinking. Then I'd remember the betrayal and stop caring. Some doors close forever. You don't look back. 3 weeks later, finalizing accounts for the new fiscal year, I found something unexpected. One more transfer I'd missed before. Small deposits, $100 monthly for the past 2 years, going to a separate account under Alina's maiden name, Alina Thorne. Not huge amounts. Easy to overlook among larger fraud. I traced it, expecting more theft. Instead, I found something different. The account was a college savings fund. Listed beneficiary, our daughter Kira. She was 11 now, smart and curious, living with her mother post-separation. I'd been so focused on business warfare, I'd almost forgotten what we'd once built beyond the company. The deposits weren't stolen. They were Alina's salary portions, set aside monthly. Consistent, deliberate savings for Kira's future. Away from business chaos. Away from whatever was happening between us. I stared at those statements for a long time. This wasn't greed. This was a mother protecting her child's future when she saw the marriage collapsing. Planning for a reality where we weren't together anymore. Maybe she'd been preparing for divorce long before the business betrayal. Maybe the fraud and the family breakdown were connected in ways I hadn't understood. She'd been saving for Kira while stealing from the company. Both truths existed simultaneously, complicated and human. I felt something I didn't expect, sadness. Not for her. For what we'd become. For how partnership turned to warfare. For a daughter watching her parents destroy what they'd built. I closed the laptop and sat in the quiet office. Late evening, everyone gone home. City lights glowed through the windows. Success tastes different than you imagine. I'd won everything, the company, control, justice. Alina had lost everything, partnership, reputation, probably her freedom eventually. The fraud charges were still pending. But sitting there alone, I didn't feel victorious. Just tired. The revenge had been necessary, the justice deserved. She'd stolen, lied, manipulated. Consequences were appropriate. Yet somewhere in the fighting, we'd both lost something bigger than money or business. We'd lost who we'd been when we started, idealistic partners building dreams in a garage. That version of us was gone, killed by greed on her side and cold efficiency on mine. I thought about Kira's college fund. How Alina had protected one thing while destroying everything else. Maybe that was the real lesson, people are contradictions. Heroes and villains in the same skin, making choices that damn and save them simultaneously. I picked up my phone, typed a message I'd been avoiding. The college fund stays untouched. Kira deserves her future. Sent it to Alina's number. Didn't know if she'd respond. didn't matter. Some things transcend warfare. I stood, gathered my things, walked through the empty office I now owned. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. New responsibilities. The company would rebuild. But tonight, I just whispered to the empty room, you don't always choose the battle, but you choose who you become while fighting it. I chose to stay human. Even when winning felt hollow. Fade to black.